Before we get into the video, if you haven't seen Thunderbolts, this will be spoiler talk, so I do suggest that you come back to this later if you haven't seen the movie. Anyways, you have been warned. So, now, with that being said, Thunderbolts, or aka the New Avengers, is it good? Well, short answer, it's not bad. I actually enjoyed the movie when I saw it. Now, this movie is different compared to what we've been getting within the past 5 years, ever since Endgame. It's a lot darker than your average Disney Marvel movie. In the movie, they tackle very heavy topics such as depression, anxiety, suicide, drug addictions. It's very, very heavy, and it's repeated a lot throughout some of the backstories for the characters that we're introduced to. And I think the direction that Marvel's going with this, it makes the movies feel more real. I mean, even though it's superheroes versus villains, I think what makes the difference between like a good film and a great film is how relatable you can make some of the characters to the audience. Because if we can't relate to anyone in the movie, then the movie overall will feel a little stale. So being able to bring in realistic aspects of it, of just what people deal with in their day-to-day lives, regardless of how heavy it is, it's still interesting to see that being portrayed on screen, and it just makes the movie that much better and relatable. So I'm not going to talk about every single thing about the movie, but a few things I do want to point out. Yelena was great in this movie. She got most of the screen time, and there was a lot of focus on her backstory, and it's very clear that Marvel wants to put her front and center for the New Avengers. And honestly, she's a great overall character. I had no complaints with the amount of focus and attention that was put into her, and it was just really interesting to see some of the things that she's done in the past, or some of the things that she's struggling with currently now. Like I said, this movie does tackle a lot on mental health, and mental health is pretty much the repeating theme in this movie. So there's a point in time where all the characters are down in this underground laboratory, and they have to work together to escape. And obviously, at first, they start off fighting each other, everybody. We get introduced to, I think, a version of Taserface. I'm not really sure who she was exactly. Someone could quote me if I'm wrong there, but yeah, she dies within like 5 minutes of the movie. So there's nothing else with that character like at all. They stopped it right there. This is also where we get introduced to Bob, and he starts off not really knowing what's going on. He doesn't know how he got there, and later on in the movie, we find out that he's Sentry, and he's basically the MCU version of Superman, just with a lot more mental health problems. So, as these characters are down in this lab trying to figure out what's going on, they eventually figure out that they've all been set up by Valentina. They were all given a job to do, and it was supposed to be them killing each other down there, basically. And when they found out that they were basically all expendable, a trap activates an incendiary, and it's literally about to burn them all to a crisp unless they could escape. And eventually they end up escaping, but a lot of the movie is heavily focused on this one building. Like, I honestly thought that like the whole movie was going to be within this building, because it was at least like an hour of screen time that we were just seeing them trying to figure out how to escape, them talking to each other, having side conversations, and then Valentina is sending in her troops to go in and make sure that everyone there is basically slaughtered. So that's pretty much the first half of the movie. And honestly, I wouldn't have been mad if the entire movie was literally just them in that building and then, you know, just figuring stuff out, it was still enjoyable. But as enjoyable as it was, I am glad that they switched the scenery and, you know, they're back in New York and we see Bob basically getting manipulated by Valentina, and she's like talking in his ear, talking about some, oh yeah, you could be the face of the new superhero team. You could be what everyone wants to look up to. So, you know, pillow talking got him in his ear, and the team with, you know, Yelena, Bucky, and the Guardian, they have to go in and rescue Bob from Valentina. And it was funny because there was a scene where they're rushing into the old Avengers building, and like they're fighting the guards at the bottom, and you just hear Valentina through the speakers saying, "Hey, front door's open. You could just walk in." It's like, okay. So as they got up there, they see Bob in his new costume, you know, all golden, blonde hair, and they're like, "Ah, get a new haircut." You changed your hair. It was just funny. So very quickly we see just how overpowered Bob is compared to the B team Avengers. They get their ass handed to them within like 60 seconds. And we see firsthand that Bob has all these crazy abilities like flight, super speed, super strength, telekinesis. Like, he's stacked as far as abilities go. And pretty much after the team gets their ass beat, they have to retreat, and they have a mini argument. There is one thing that Yelena says to John Walker that I thought was just kind of messed up to say in the moment. She told him, like, this is why your wife left you and you can't see your kids. I was like, whoa, that is wow. It's a little deep. You cut a little deep there, huh? So again, that just goes to show you that this is not your average Marvel movie. This is something that's a bit more realistic. You know, we're dealing with people that have real life problems, and you know, one of those things is, you know, not being able to see your wife and kids, or, you know, having to get divorced, or having a drug addict mom, or, you know, getting beat as a child. Like, these are things that they all talk about in the movie, and it's very heavy stuff. So after the group has their little argument, we see Valentina talk to Bob, and she's saying, like, hey, it's time to move on to the next phase. And then Bob's came to realization, like, why do I have to take orders from you? If you say I'm a god and I'm all powerful, why would I need to listen to you at all? And that's when Valentina tries to hit him with the kill switch that they implanted in his head, and Bob grabs her, and he's about to strangle her to death, and then Valentina's assistant, Mel, she comes in and activates the kill switch, and then we see Bob, I guess, pass out. He didn't really die from the kill switch. It just like activated a dark version of him. I forgot the name of it. I think it was Void or something like that. But now Bob is like this shadowy figure, and he's floating in the air and basically consuming everyone in shadows. Like, he waves his hand around and someone instantly turns into a shadow, and it's spreading throughout the entire city. And there's a shot where you could see all the buildings and everything slowly start to turn into shadows. It's a crazy scene. I don't really know what this ability is fully about, but it was definitely interesting to see. And Yelena and the group, they realize what's going on, and they try to stop Bob, and Yelena goes into the shadow realm where she can talk to Bob's nicer split personality side. The movie, it kind of fast forwards a little bit from there. Like, everyone jumps into the shadow realm to help out Bob fight off his like evil side, and then it ends with the power of friendship. Literally, that is how they beat Bob at the end. They pull him aside, they give him a hug, so he doesn't beat the crap out of his shadow self, and the movie basically ends from there. So towards the end credits, we see the group about to confront Valentina and try to bring her down, and we see some type of press conference going on the streets, and she basically introduces the group as the new Avengers to the public, and that's where the movie ends. And we see in the credits like news headlines saying, "Is this really our Avengers? Like, are they up to the task?" And that's pretty much the same things as the audience actually watching the movie would think. Like, really, like this is our Avengers? Like, we get the B team. So it was kind of a funny jab at that. It's like Marvel basically saying, like, we understand how the audience will react to this, so we're gonna put that in there. And obviously, there's an end credit scene where we see the ship from the Fantastic Four flying from orbit into the Earth. So that's pretty much the movie. I know I skipped quite a bit of stuff. I just wanted to point out some of the bigger topics there. And I think that, honestly, the direction that Marvel is going, as long as they stick to the way that they produce Thunderbolts, I do think that this could be the revival of Marvel. Because within the past 5 years, especially after Endgame, I just feel like we had so many like hit or miss movies. Like, I did not go to the theater to see a lot of these new movies that Marvel came out with recently. Like Eternals, like I know the movie exists. I think I might have saw it, but to be honest, I don't think anyone remembers the plot or the characters in Eternals at all. The Marvels, definitely didn't see that. Black Widow was okay. Honestly, that was one of their better ones, but still, it kind of felt like it was missing something. Black Panther Wakanda Forever, I'm gonna be honest, didn't really like that movie that much. Like, honestly, the only good movies that have came out besides Thunderbolt within the past, recent years has been Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, Spider-Man No Way Home, and Deadpool and Wolverine. Other than that, I can't really think of anything else that really stood out to me. So there was a new post on the internet that Disney boss Bob Iger had commented about Thunderbolts. And pretty much he says that Thunderbolts is the first and best example of Marvel's new commitment to quality over quantity. And like I've said before, Marvel has came out with a bunch of TV shows and a bunch of movies within the past 5 years, but have they really been good? Not really. So in this statement, Bob says, "We've also learned over time that quantity does not necessarily mean quality, and this is obvious for obvious reasons." He continues by saying, "Frankly, we've all admitted to ourselves that we've lost a little focus by making too much. By consolidating a bit and having Marvel focus much more on their films, we believe that will result in better quality. I think the first and best examples is Thunderbolts. I feel very good about that." And honestly, I feel very good about that too, Bob. This is what makes the next few movies that Marvel comes out with very important, because Thunderbolts was actually, like, no bullshit, a pretty good movie. One of the best Marvel movies that has came out in a while. So if they could set up this next phase for Marvel successfully with these next few movies and not make them a total flop. So what we're supposed to get is Fantastic Four and I believe another Spider-Man movie. And I'm sure there's going to be some more as well to connect everything into the Avengers Secret War. I'm pretty sure X-Men is going to be involved in there. But these next movies are going to be extremely important when it comes to, as Bob said, quality over quantity. Marvel has to make this next phase work. If they don't, I think people will genuinely lose all hope for Marvel if they haven't already. I think Marvel as a whole has lost a lot of fans' interest with the type of content that they were pumping out recently up until Thunderbolts. So if they could turn it around within the next couple of years, I think that they will regain a large amount of their audience back and very loyal fans. But that does depend on how these next few movies do. And honestly, I'll actually go to the theaters to watch these next few movies. Because before, I will not lie to you, I did lose hope because of shit like this. But Thunderbolts gives hope. Thunderbolts, it definitely gives us some type of light at the end of the tunnel. So that's pretty much the video. Thank you guys for watching. And as always, if you liked the video, go ahead and share it. Other than that, I'm out.